Good evening and welcome to The Pendulum. I am Ajibola Ojesola. The Pendulum is our weekly political program on Lagos television. This evening on the program, we'll be looking at the controversial tax reform bill, which is before members of the National Assembly. And these set of bills have been generating different kind of reactions from different parts of the country. But before we go into our conversation tonight, we'll be taking a very short break on the program. You're still watching The Pendulum on Lagos television. This evening, again, we'll be looking at the controversy surrounding the tax reform bills for a number, which is before members of the National Assembly. And in some quarters, people are saying that these particular bills were targeted at some section of the country. We have somebody who should know when it comes to taxation on the program. This evening, we have Dr. Deji Awobotu, FCTI, FCAMNI, is a finance and tax expert and is our guest on the program this evening. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much, Ajibola.
Okay, like I did say in my introduction, these particular set of bills, for a number, is generating a lot of some negative reaction in some quarters, and some people are insinuating that it is targeted at some section of the country. But before we go into that aspect, would you please take us through what these four bills are essentially all about so that we can educate those who are confused as regards the intention of these bills?
Okay, thank you very much. As we are aware that the president set up that committee, the Taiwo Oyedele's committee, sometimes last year, and the reason basically is to reform the taxation as far as Nigeria is concerned. Now, for me, I look at that appointment as a revolution being dictated from the top. You know, when you have revolutions, people are out there agitating for different desires that they expect the government to do for them. But this time around, it is now the government that is initiating that. And the reason why I believe that has been done is because the masses have suffered a whole lot. And when I mean the masses have suffered a whole lot, the taxes that is being borne by individuals in this country, the majority of those forms of taxes are being paid by those that are vulnerable. Are being paid by masses, because if you tax someone who is a wheelbarrow pusher, you tax someone who is driving, riding a bicycle, where would they get the money from? How much are they earning? So if you look at the details of the taxes that the reform is trying to address, it's trying to take those burdens away from the masses, straight to those that have the wherewithal to pay for the taxes. Because if you look at the infrastructural challenges we have in this country, the amount we have budgeted so far cannot take care of most of the challenges we are having. And we have a lot of people that have made so much money in this country and they're not paying back into the system. Rather, they will look for means and ways to avoid the payment of those taxes. Those that do not have the wherewithal are ended up being overtaxed. So it's like taxing poverty. There's no way you can get yourself reformed out of that. The most important thing that the president has done is to engage, is to appoint the Taiwo-led committee to come up with the different aspects of that taxation. And I believe a whole lot we're going to discuss tonight to see how it's going to impact on the individual. The major part is the refurbishment or the changing of the Federal Inland Revenue Service to the Nigerian Revenue Service and other aspects that has been introduced by the tax reform bill.
Okay, we also have the Joint Revenue Board of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2024, Nigeria Revenue Service, like you rightly mentioned, Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, and Nigerian Tax Bill 2024. And of course, I've seen Dr. Taiwo Oyedele at different fora trying to explain that this is needed at this particular time of our history. But right there in the chamber of the National Assembly, there are some senators, especially those from the northern part of the country, raising concerns that this is targeted at their people, it's going to make them poorer. In particular, Senator Ali Ndume did say that this particular bill is going to overwhelm the poor, but you are here saying that it's actually meant to assuage the sufferings of the poor who have been the one paying the taxes all this while, as against those who are rich.
Correct. Now, let's start with individuals that are earning salaries less than
a million.
The implication of that is on a monthly basis, you're earning between 70, which is the minimum wage, to 83,333 naira. Now, if you are earning that reform exempts you completely from paying taxes. What's the implication? That you're going to have enough residual income with you to spend than giving that back to the government. So you're not going to do that because you are within the threshold of those that are exempted from those taxes. That's number one. Number two, if you look at organizations that are considered as small and medium-scale enterprises, the Companies and Allied Matters Act classify those organizations as organizations making 25 million turnover and below. But the tax reform has increased that threshold to 50 million. So if your turnover from January to December is less than 50 million naira, you will be exempted from tax. So,
which is how those SMEs can grow.
That's the only way they can grow. Now, if you are employer and you are engaging youth, you're engaging more staff, employing them into your business, you're going to have tax incentive for employing so many people within your organization. That is going to reduce unemployment. Now, in addition to that, the company income tax rate that we have presently is about 30%. That reform is going to bring it down to 25%. Now, I can tell you clearly because I went for a study tour sponsored by the federal government in Algeria with some of my colleagues at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies. And we tried to benchmark what Algeria was doing alongside with what Nigeria does at that time. And it was just last year. The company income tax that Algeria is charging the companies there is about 19% if you're into manufacturing. If you're into public buildings, infrastructure, and public works, the tax you pay is about 23%. In Nigeria, our tax rate, company income tax, is 30% across the board. So long as you're a company, you must be subjected to the company income tax rate at the rate of 30%.
So now, ours is higher than that of Algeria.
It's higher. And what Algeria was trying to do was to attract investors into their country. Now, once they attract investors into the country, the bulk of tax that they've reduced from the company's income tax, they transfer it to the employees. So there is a higher amount of tax you pay under the pay as you earn in Algeria.
Okay.
Meanwhile, in our own part of the country, it's lower if you compare our payee with that of Algeria. Now, the reform is now encouraged, is doing better. It's going to be doing better in terms of company income tax. It's going to be doing better in terms of pay as you earn. So if you try to look at it holistically, the reform is a major revolution that the masses, the vulnerable, should be singing round the country and be applauding Mr. President for appointing the Taiwo-led committee to come up with this reform. Because certainly the president will have his desire. This is what I want to do. I want masses to be happy. I want them to be okay. But this cannot come in one day. Certainly we're going to go through the pains, and those are the pains we are going through now. And if you're going to do a reform, now see how long the bill has been with the National Assembly. See how long it's going to be. For when is this bill going to come out for the president to assent to it to become a law? So there are issues as far as the country is concerned. All right, so we need to give the government that opportunity and give them the support, because I know with this now, the masses certainly will be better off. Now, people are complaining about the VAT increase.
Yeah.
Now, the VAT we are paying right now is about 7.5%. In Algeria, it's about 90%.
Wow.
Now, let me tell you, as we speak now, the reform is going to introduce it from 7.5% to 10%. And it's going to rise to 15% by 2030. Now, between now and 2030, it is still not up to what Algeria is paying. So which implies that and it's not just across board. There are some products, there are some services, there are some items that
food
are
items, medical items, education.
So now, the masses now, what will they spend their money on? They will spend their money on food. Food is VAT exempted.
Just like health.
Education, health. You know, basic things that will make them survive are being exempted from VAT. So people are shouting, we are increasing. It's only VAT increase that they are saying. Now, if I need to eat, why should I go to Transcorp Hilton to eat? Why should I go to Sheraton to eat, for instance? It's because you have the money. So if you have the money, let those that have the money pay the tax. If you don't have the money, I go to a shop where the turnover is less than 50 million. I'm not going to pay VAT. It doesn't impact me in any way. So in Nigeria, you're saying dollar is right. What's my business with dollar is right when my transactions are not in dollars? So to that extent, this is a reform that everyone should applaud. And the members of the National Assembly, if truly that representing the people that voted them into office, they should pass that bill at the speed of light.
Okay, so what then do you say to those who are saying that, okay, this particular bill is going to favor a particular section of the country as against the other? And of course, you rightly said the VAT, people are also complaining that in some part of the country, the rate at which they consume certain things is less when you compare it to Lagos. And I've had Mr. Taiwo Oyedele at different platforms saying that a particular state that should be complaining, or some state that should be complaining, should be Lagos and Rivers. But he has gotten their buy-in into this particular reform.
Good.
How is that so?
Now, well, at this point, I need to applaud the governor of Lagos State, Governor Ajibola, for his magnanimity to not fight this reform.
Why is he magnanimous?
Yeah, because a whole lot in terms of what he's ceding for the sake of the nation is what he should be applauded for. Because on the normal, the irrational governor will say, no, I'm expected to be getting, say, 15% or 16%. You are bringing it down for 4%. Why? I must challenge it. Because the powers within the Constitution has vested that funds generated within my state should come back on the basis of derivation. Section 163 emphatically mentioned that. Stamp duty, VAT are within that class. So if I'm making so much in terms of stamp duties in Lagos State, if I'm making so much in terms of VAT from Lagos State, and you want to give me a lower chunk of what is due to me, I should fight it. But for the fact that I'm letting go for the sake of the national interest, it should be applauded. River State governor should be applauded. Now, the bulk of this money, I'm saying it, bulk of this money is going to those states that are considering to be disadvantaged by this reform. That's not correct.
Even when you look at the table, the table presented by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele at a particular town hall meeting, it was clear that certain states will be getting more than what they are getting now.
As I speak. So, is it not those states that should be championing that reform should be approved by the National Assembly?
But they're saying the rates of what they consume there is not much when you compare it to Lagos.
Okay, so if you are not, and that's why it's not about the derivation basis now, because if it's going to be about derivation, on the basis of consumption, there are other things that are consuming in the north that are not consuming in Lagos, that are not effectively consuming in Lagos. So it's going to be a win-win situation at the end of the day. Let the money goes into the same pool, and let's just have a justifiable reason to distribute. Those that will be affected, we can't win all the battles. You win some, you lose some, and the national interest target should be put on the table. The fact that I'm making it now in Lagos does not mean I should be laughing at other states not making it. It's to also drive investments in other states. Because if the tax rate is reduced from 30% to 25%, the government already knows that they're making it easy for organizations to go into production.
Invest.
Now, it would drive the president's attention into security. Because once the structure of setting up businesses, the cost of running businesses is reduced, and I'm taking care of the security at the other end, then there will be development. And once the infrastructures are there, the organizations are moving, unemployment will certainly reduce. There will be a lot of benefits across board. So at the end of the day, everyone will develop in their areas of their national competence.
And strength.
You know, so as far as that allusion is concerned, I don't think it's correct. And I believe Taiwo Oyedele has also spoken extensively about it, that no state will be disadvantaged. Bottom line is, develop in your respective areas. Let people consume what they have the desire to consume in their respective places. If you're doing something higher than the normal, you will pay VAT. There's no doubt about it. And when you pay VAT, everybody will share out of it.
So will these tax reform bills at the end of the day promote the use of homemade goods?
Absolutely.
Because if you are one of those who have the penchant for luxury goods, you end up paying more.
You pay more. That's it. You will pay more. There's no two ways about it. So because the tax reform is addressing the poor. And why? The poor in the past has financed this country. So the rich, I can tell you easily, because the money is there, I'll tell you, okay, fine, how much tax do you want to charge? You come up with the best of judgment. It asks me to pay 1 billion naira tax. Meanwhile, the transaction that I'm doing will require me to pay about 3 billion, 4 billion taxes. Now, if you're benefiting from the system, I think it behooves of you to pay what is due to the system. Taiwan made mention in one of his commentaries that Elon Musk paid about 11 billion naira taxes to the U.S. government. That's why the fact that it's not at the point in time it wasn't a U.S. I think from South
dollars.
$11 billion to the U.S. government. Now, why was he willing, gladly paying that? Because he made so much from the states. So if so-called VIPs in the country are making so much from this country, then they should pay what is due to the state, and let everyone be happy.
Okay, if these are the merits of these bills and, of course, reforms as carried out by the Taiwo Oyedele-led committee, would you fault the federal government for not doing enough in terms of sensitization to get the buy-ins of the people?
All right, I believe Taiwo Oyedele's committee did a lot in engaging major stakeholders. First, they engaged the governor. The governors in the governors forum, they engaged different professionals, different stakeholders, different groups were communicating, and most of this basically were done using technology, virtual meetings, sensitization. But this is now where I expect the National Orientation Agency to come out forcefully to support this, because if the National Orientation Agency looks at the details of the bill, picks out the snippets out of it, and they're pushing it out, a whole lot of people will know that this tax reform is a major revolution without carrying placards. So for the fact that they are not doing it, I'm going to fault them in that regard. They have to do more, because a whole lot is embedded in that bill, and everyone should all our hands should be on deck to ensure that it comes to the limelight.
Okay, the chairman of that committee equally said at a particular forum that we cannot wait, that we just have to ensure that these bills are passed now, because it's like we are even running a bit late.
Yes, because it's better late than never. This should have been done years before now. Because why would you be taxing poverty? Most of the time when I are in different retreats, programs, his position when he was the African tax partner of PwC, his position has always been, it does not make sense taxing poverty. You can't grow taxing poverty. So if that has been his position, the moment he was appointed by Mr. President, I know, well, we are in for a good show. But a whole lot of people, certainly, those that are benefiting from the system as we speak, will want to go against it. They want to fight it. So, and that's what they will tell you, why is it now that Nigerians are suffering? If Nigerians are suffering now, is this not the time we should be alleviating their suffering? And how can you do that? By taking out the taxes on them. So if you feel that you are, a whole lot of people are still benefiting from the system. That's not the fact that Nigerians are suffering. Now, the president has come up with different palliatives for the expats. This is what I also expect the governors to also do. Now, how many people are flying on train? How many? Now, we have state mass transit buses there. Why can't the state government also come there and support the federal government? So when the federal government is doing their bit, and the state government is doing their bit, the local government is doing their bit, everyone will be happy. This suffering will be reduced. But you can't just say, well, it's the federal government's show. Come on, how about state government? So
from your submission now, you're saying that members of the National Assembly who are averse to this bill should shed their toga of opposition now, and of course see the benefits of this bill.
No, I think for me, I don't think they've read that bill as expected in detail. I don't think so, because
some of them.
Well, some may not have read. Well, if they've read, they would have seen the value that this bill has brought to the table to alleviate the sufferings of Nigerians. All right. So, and if truly these are members of National Assembly, truly, if they are representing the people, then they should do what is in the best interest of the people. And when I say do the best things that are in the best interest of the people, support that bill. Support the bill. Sign off on it from the National Assembly and let Mr. President assent to it. It is as simple as that. And let the Nigerians begin to feel that benefit. If they delay it, there's no implementation can start. So which implies that if this bill had been brought like last year, 2 years, 3 years ago, we would have seen the benefit and the impact in the people, in the people's lifestyle. All right. Now, some are even saying that it's going to lead to inflation. How? How?
Okay, but Dr. Deji, but some people will say that probably you are trying to amplify the good of this bill because you are from the same region with Mr. President, and of course, the carry member of the APC.
Okay, well, I won't.
I know you are a tax expert.
But I'm first a professional before being a politician, and yes, I'm a carry member of the party. Yes, I agree, but the point remains is it won't affect your integrity as a professional accountant. Now, don't forget, I'm also a member of the National Institute, and everything we do as a member of the National Institute must be towards a better society. We don't preach ethnicity, we don't preach religion, we don't preach anything. Everything that we should live by and live for should be towards a better society. So if you want to make the society be better, regardless of whether it's affected, say it the way it is. Life continues. So, Mr. President, as we speak, in my view and in my opinion, is doing well by this committee. And I believe what he expects from Nigerians is the maximum support to move to the next level.
All right, so at the end of the day, where would this place the economy of Nigeria?
Certainly, the economy is going to move and develop. Because a lot of gaps that we have, a lot of loopholes automatically will be sealed, and all the funds will be channeled towards the same pool. Now, when the money are going into the same pool, the Nigerian Revenue Service, which is now going to be the FIRS, which
instead of Federal Inland Revenue Service,
which is now going to be Nigerian Revenue Service, they will have a whole lot of funds to manage because the money are all coming into the same pot. And don't forget that the budget we are pushing now, compared to the budget we are running now, compared to other African states, is just a fraction. It's just a fraction. So we need more money to come into the coffers. We don't need to create opportunity for people to start making money. This is national wealth and should be distributed nationally. So those that are benefiting from the current system will fight against it. But I believe that Mr. President will be resolute. And we as a people of this nation, we should support Mr. President to fight these corrupt individuals.
Okay, and now that the collection of taxes will now be centralized, would that erase multiple taxation? And what happens to agencies like customs at the end of the day?
Now, customs basically are actually not meant to be collecting revenue. It is the FIRS that has that mandate of collecting federal government revenue. So all those funds should go in there. Customs should focus on their primary responsibility. All right. So if they do that, every other act that is subsidiaries act automatically will be consolidated. Now, some agencies are complaining that with the tax reform, it's going to affect them, the Naseni, the TED fund. It's not true. It's not going to affect them in any way. The reform is not saying TED fund should be scrapped. It's not saying Naseni should be scrapped. It's not saying that should be scrapped. It's just saying that the funds will come as a development fund and distributed.
Okay. I think that's a very good place to end our discussion this evening on the program. I've been speaking to Dr. Deji Awobotu, FCTI, FCA, MNI, finance and tax expert on the controversy surrounding the tax reform bills, which is before members of the National Assembly. And he has said it all that this is for the good of Nigerians, especially the poor. And of course, at the end of the day, government will be able to generate more funds to finance infrastructure, education and health, and of course, in totality, move the country forward. We thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
That's the Pendulum this evening. We thank you very much for being part of the show. We're back again next week talking politics as usual. I am Ajibola Ojesola. I'll see you then.